Welcome to Houston, PA, Houston's public affairs show, an iHeart Media broadcast. Our disclaimer says that the opinions expressed on this show do not necessarily reflect those held by this radio station, its management staff, or any of its advertisers. My name is Laurent. I am the Texan from France. And I like to say that when a guest returns to the show, I'm happy because that means that they like being here enough. And when you do the public affairs show that is about altruistic subjects and people helping other people, you like to hear that you did it right. My guests are here from SCORE, the Service Corps of Retired Executives. These are men and women who have a successful career and then after retirement decide to get busy again. And they go out and help young entrepreneurs set up their businesses. They don't make loans. We'll talk about that. But they provide something which maybe it's at least equally important as a loan, if not more, because it is the instruments with which these young entrepreneurs are going to be managing the money that they borrow. Art Kent is a mentor with SCORE. With him is this year's winner of the 2015 Family Business Award given out by SBA. That's the Small Business Administration. And you've been a mentor all your life, as a matter of fact.
Well, in other ways, yes. I came on board because what we do, I think, is valuable to the community at large. We help people like Raj and others start businesses. Last year alone, we started 2,556 businesses with our clients. That's 3,000 plus jobs. Okay.
Well, those are the business entrepreneurs. They're hiring people, so we have to multiply that.
That's 2,556 businesses creating 3,138 jobs
and growing
1 year, and growing every year.
You're listening to Houston, PA, Houston's public affairs show. My guests are here from SCORE, the Service Corps of Retired Executives. Art Kent is a mentor with SCORE, and this year's winner of the 2015 Family Business Award given out by the Small Business Administration is Raj Shafaii. He is the owner and operator of Party and Reception Center. Raj, congratulations, and I guess a very belated welcome to America. You immigrated as a young man. You came here to go to school.
Yes, Laurent, and thank you for having me on the show.
Well, it's an honor. You came to America with a single suitcase, and in it, your dad had hidden something for you. I want to start with this because I think that we'll talk about the success you've had with your company is going to roll right out of your immigration, the story of your immigration. But you came here without your parents, but you had the support of your parents.
Well, that is true. You know, my dad went to the American University of Beirut, and he was really fascinated with this country, and he wanted to make sure that his son goes to America to continue his education.
And we have to talk about how Iran is in a very different phase of its history. People are allowed to watch TV and dance in the streets, and America and Iran are close friends, and Iran is friendly with Europe too. There has not been the Islamic Revolution, which has colored the water quite a bit.
Sure, you know. That is true. The U.S. presidents from Eisenhower to Carter always viewed Iran as our friends. Yeah. And older people have a different impression of Iran from before the Islamic Revolution.
That's right.
Yeah, I grew up in Abadan, and we had a number of neighbors that were Americans and British.
Yeah, I think that those of us that remember a little history realize that that's the reason we're fighting for some of these things. We just want that part of the world to get back to being what it used to be, which was free or more free. But you came to the States, and did you land in Texas?
Well, no, I didn't. You know, initially, I have to back and say that I was 18 years old when I left Iran with one suitcase, like you said, and flew thousands of miles to get to New York. And you know, Laurent, I was so proud of my English-speaking ability, and that's until I got to New York and had to clear custom and culture all by myself. Then I realized how little English I spoke. But when I finally got to Houston and I opened my suitcase, I found a letter from my dad that he had secretly placed in there. In the letter he wrote, the best investment that a person can make is education. He told me that he knew that I would encounter difficulties being away from the family for the first time, and to never feel helpless and to pick my friends carefully. And another advice he gave me, which was probably one of the best things that he had told me, he said, find room from an American families to rent. This way you can learn the language and learn the custom and the culture.
So you wanted to instantly infiltrate American society, basically. But that's really, it's the best way to do it. If you're going to immigrate to a country, start on day one to assimilate. And like your dad said, and like you did, to learn the language and to get an education is primordial. And I feel like immigrants understand that better than Americans themselves. I think that if you're born here and you're on a track to go to a good school. You take
things for granted.
You do, yeah. I think so, yeah. And on this show, we have the opportunity to talk about those things we take for granted. Mm-hmm. I feel very compelled because I feel like my parents might have done the same thing had we been in the same situation, that even though they had to make a sacrifice, they sent their son very, very far away. This is not easy for parents, mm-hmm. and they must have worried. They must have spent hours and hours, days worrying mm-hmm. about your future. But the idea that they would do something so that when you put your suitcase on the bed, you'd find some family comfort. So did you find a family with whom you could room?
Well, in January of 1976, I registered at San Jacinto College. And the very first thing I did, I contacted Dr. Oglesby, the foreign student advisor, looking for American families interested in keeping foreign students. And I was referred to Ms. Madge Long. And later she became like a mother to me and the other students staying at her house.
There were more than you?
There were about 4 students.
Oh, wow. So how did this organize? Did you just live in her house as though you were a son? You had a room? You would come to the kitchen and help yourself to food? Is that...
Very good question. She lived in a garage, and she turned the garage into a room, and then she had 3 rooms to rent to students.
Okay, so that's how she was...
We paid the rent, and she cooked for us, and, I was... had my hair long to my shoulder. I was making B's and C's, enjoyed going to discos on Saturday night and hang out with my friends. Now, Sunday mornings, I would reluctantly get out of bed because Mama Madge, we all called her Mama Madge, would knock on my door. Raj, it's time to go to church. I enjoyed everything that she really did for us. And she was really like having mothers on both sides of the ocean.
Yeah. So you were of the same faith?
No, I really have not been much of anything when it comes to religion. But in fact, another thing that my dad had written, that, he didn't care whether I go to mosque or I went to church or synagogue or anywhere. He said the basic principles of all religions are the same. Be honest, don't lie, don't cheat anybody, live a good life and help others. I really don't care what religion you choose to belong to.
Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. The golden rule is really all we need, because that precludes stealing and killing right there. It does. If you just think about it, you're absolutely right. Every single religion has that kernel of the tenant, and then it gets hijacked. And we don't want to talk about that because we have more interesting things to talk about today, including building businesses. You're listening to Houston, PA, Houston's Public Affairs Show. My name is Laurent, and my guests are here from SCORE, the Service Corps of Retired Executives. Art Kent is a mentor with SCORE, and Raj Shafaii is the owner and operator of Party and Reception Center. He is also the winner of the 2015 Family Business Award given out by the Small Business Administration. Their website is www.houston.score.org, houston.score.org. You can get information on SCORE and the kind of advice you can get from the mentors. It's all free, and you can also just show up. In fact, that's how you meet with the mentors. You go to SCORE, and you can find out their address and their hours of operation at houston.score.org. Art, the luncheon, which is on May 12th, where you're giving out the awards, this is a prime networking opportunity for people like Raj to meet each other.
Yes, and the room is filled with people from not only from the industries and companies that are represented by the winners, but from all of the organizations that help them and get them started. And we also have some workshops which have great information for people who are trying to start businesses. So
on the day of the luncheon, there were
Yeah.
kill two birds with one stone, as they say.
yeah,
It's
Or
not just
3
for
or
fun.
4.
You
Yeah.
can go have lunch, meet some really interesting people, and hear
it's
some
a pretty
stories,
good lunch too. By the way.
and get into some workshops.
Yeah. It'll be an interesting experience. The luncheon is fun. We have I don't know if the crew has been out to Raj's place yet, but we send a video crew out.
Oh, cool!
And they do 1.5 to 3 minute videos at each of the winning. There are 7 winners of these awards, and we play those on a giant screen at the luncheon. So.
Yeah. Raj, owner and operator of Party and Reception Center. What is Party and Reception Center?
Well, banquet facilities. We have 6 banquet facilities, and we can host events from 50 to over 750 guests. We host for events from small birthday parties, bridal showers, baby showers, quinceañeras, Sweet 16, everything.
You get a lot of those, right?
Oh, quinceañeras, yes, that's the bulk of our
they
business.
go all out
That's
for
true.
those parties to honor their
they
girls.
celebrate bigger than weddings.
Yeah.
And that's...
I love it because it's a celebration of a girl turning into a young woman, and I feel like that type of respect is something that we're talking about it a lot more these days. But it's something that comes from South America and the Latin cultures that is really quite beautiful, and I feel like maybe Americans aren't quite aware of it. We hear about it sometimes, but there's this whole tradition of really. Also putting expectations on the girls. It's like you're 15 now, and we expect great things from you. Anyway, a bit of an aside.
Well, that's completely a different story.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah.
And so back to your business. You're doing now all these party and reception plannings, but you started selling tablecloth out of a suitcase.
Oh yeah. This wasn't something that we started with. We got motivated to get into banquet hall business because of a need to diversify. Let me explain. In the 80s and early 90s, we were designing and developing products for the craft industry. And in around mid-90s, I was traveling all the time. I was never home, selling our products to chain stores and distributors.
Now, what kind of products would these be? Like, give us a couple of examples of crafting materials. Well,
we started. Let me backtrack a little bit. I think it would. I thought I would be an engineer for the rest of my life. I graduated with high honor from University of Texas in Austin. I met my wife Norma in Austin. We moved to Houston. I got a job as an engineer. She became a social worker. And I was happy as I could be being an engineer. Now, in 1982, one of my uncles from Dubai came to visit with us. And he was trying to get me to quit my job to start getting into selling handmade tablecloths, which is nothing I was really interested in. Well, he went back to Dubai and sent me 8 tablecloths, different samples. I didn't know what to do with the tablecloths. I took photos, I prepared an album, put the prices, the colors, the size, the shapes, and they stayed in a little suitcase in my house and collected dust for months. Honestly, that's what happened. Until one Saturday night. Remember I told you about Dr. Oglesby, the foreign student advisor?
Indeed.
We invited her over to our house, and I told my wife, I said, honey, we're not selling those tablecloths. Just go ahead and take the nicest one and put it on a table. Let's just use them. Well, Dr. Oglesby fell in love with it.
So she noticed.
She noticed.
This is a coincidence. This is interesting because it wasn't meant to happen this way. You didn't know. You weren't trying to do anything.
I wasn't trying to sell it to her.
Yeah.
And so
it must have been beautiful.
Oh, it's all crochet, handmade. It's really awesome. So she said, Raj, where did you buy this tablecloth? I said, Dr. Oglesby, my uncle is trying to get me to sell them, and I have 7 more. Well, Monday, she called me. She wanted me to take those samples to her office so the secretaries and the other teachers could see them. By the end of the week, we had $7,000 worth of order. And for an engineer who was making $1,900 a month, that was a lot of money.
And?
Well, I'm going to have to make this short because we're going to need a couple of hours, but to go through the whole story. So I picked up the phone and I called my uncle in Dubai. His wife picked up and said, well, your uncle is somewhere in the Orient on a buying trip. Well, I tracked him down in a Holiday Inn in Hong Kong, and I gave him the good news. And he said, that was a small quantity. I needed to buy more. And
he wants to work as a grocer. I mean, he wants to buy.
He wanted to send me more.
Yeah.
And I said, well, wait a minute, that's all I got, and you never told me about the minimum order, and I've already promised, and you need to figure out how to send me those tablecloths. So
my honor is on the line here. Your reputation.
Right. My reputation, I've already promised. So he went ahead and sent me all those tablecloths through post office in small packages. I got them, I delivered it, I got my money, I paid my uncle, I made a profit, and I told myself I'm never going to do this again. I just got lucky.
Yeah.
Plus, minimum order now. Well, my uncle called me in about a week. He said, I'm very proud of you, Raj. Why don't you invest $10,000 in tablecloths? I told him he was out of his mind because, first of all, I didn't have $10,000. Secondly, I've seen only 8 tablecloths. Plus, I'm really happy being an engineer.
Yeah.
Well, he made me a proposition that probably made a difference in my life. He said, I tell you what, I'm going to pick the best designs. I'm going to send you $10,000 worth of tablecloths.
And you can pay me back.
When you sell it, pay me. And if you don't sell it, send it back. Well, Laurent, my house became a warehouse. I had tablecloths in every room. We never wanted to quit our regular jobs. But on the weekend, Norma and I went to craft shows. We went to house parties and flea markets selling tablecloths. Yes, we never sold $7,000 a week, but for the amount of time we put in it, it was good. But I thought I will be an engineer for the rest of my life. All that changed. When the country fell into recession, our company folded up, and all of a sudden, I was unemployed. All I had were those tablecloths to fall back to.
Yeah.
But I didn't go to school to learn how to sell tablecloths. So I started dwelling with everything that did not go the way I wanted to. And I had to readjust. And that's what my dad had taught me. When things went wrong, most people, when things go wrong, most people try to turn negative into positive. But my dad always saw everything as a positive and opportunity. He always knew when to guide me in a certain direction and when I would be better off to figure things out on my own. That really forced me to think really hard about what I wanted to do. Then I started working hard to do it. That, with the help of another uncle, I borrowed $100,000, and I took the first flight, and I went to Hong Kong on a buying trip.
Hong Kong.
Right.
Yeah. Asian cloth.
Right.
Yeah.
That's all the Chinese tablecloths came from Hong Kong.
And this is back when Hong Kong, you could fly into Hong Kong and you could leave. It was not yet reassimilated by China, the rest of the country, where you might fly in but not leave. It's another. We talked about how the world has been different on this show, and that's another thing that has changed dramatically. So you went to Hong Kong, and you basically set up a company to sell tablecloth and cloth products in America?
I bought all kinds of tablecloths, bedspreads, placemats, runners, dollies, all kinds of colors and shapes. And I came back to Houston. I rented a warehouse. I hired a few employees, and we started going to trade shows. And about the same time, ladies' collars, those lacy, detachable collars became very popular. 83, 84, or maybe 85. My mom was living with us. I could not wait to get home to tell my mom to cut up some of those tablecloths that I wasn't able to sell to turn them into those lacy collars.
Yeah.
And I took him to craft shows, and we sold the heck out of them. My mom making them in the garage of our house, to where we had 2 locations, 60 employees, and we're bringing in $100,000 a month was about 3 months.
You know, it just occurred to me that the advice and the support that your parents gave you allowed you to prosper and allow you to hire other people who must have been able to prosper from that too. I guess the importance of public affairs on Houston, PA is that we want to show how being good human beings is really profitable to the whole country. But the importance of a good parent can be something that has a ripple wave of an effect to sometimes thousands of people. I mean, look at Elon Musk. Look at what that man has built out of his education. The people that work for him have his parents to thank to some extent. And the people that work for you and have prospered because of your company, whether they were associated buying from it or just directly working from you, owe something to your parents. And I think it plays very nicely with what the Service Corps of Retired Executive, SCORE, does, because that's what it's all about. These are a group of people who have understood that without any advice from the outside, they might not have been as successful as they have been. And I like the idea that people retire from one profession and then go into nonprofit or do something to volunteer. I think it's just a very honorable way of thinking about life. You're listening to Houston, PA, Houston's public affairs show. My guests are here from SCORE, the Service Corps of Retired Executives. They're having their SCORE Small Business Administration Awards on May 12th. And you can go to www.houston.score.org, houston.score.org to get information on the organization, how you can get advice from them. You just show up. It's all free. And the luncheon is an opportunity to mingle and meet some very motivated people. And Art, as you said earlier, you're going to have workshops there on May 12th. So this is kind of a one-stop sampling of what SCORE does. You can have lunch, meet the people that run the organization, and actually take advantage of it.
Yeah, we have a couple of workshops in the morning that are, can be helpful to people who are trying to start. One of them has to do with ideas for customer service, and another one is this current rage called crowdfunding.
Yeah.
How you use the internet. Because people who are going to go into business, they need to find ways to get the cash, to get the money it takes to start the business.
Yeah.
You start the business, you hire people, the economy grows. That's what makes it work.
Raj, do you do some mentoring now? Do you feel compelled to give back as well?
Well, certainly. I have helped people open their own banquet facilities.
No, in competition to you, I guess.
In competition to us, yes. There's plenty for everybody.
When did you become an American?
Oh, my God.
Did you marry an American? Is that how it happened?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
so you got the citizenship through marriage.
1979.
Did you take the citizenship test and go to court to raise your hand?
Yes, I did.
Or you pledged allegiance?
Yes,
My dad did that too. I was born American, but I had that experience. And I like to tell Americans that it's an experience that most Americans won't have, to be a witness to a family member or themselves become American. And it's a big deal. That ceremony is
really is. Yes.
And I think that people should go just to see it, because it's a reminder that the TV is lying to us a lot. And one of the big lies that they keep throwing in our face is that somehow this country isn't great anymore. Bull. Maybe we could close the show, since we have 3 people on the air here who believe otherwise. But Raj, I think that maybe your perspective is the most powerful one, because you came to this country hoping that it would offer you opportunities, and you found them here. And this is, in fact, what America looks like from the outside.
Well, that is correct. And why do you think everybody wants to come to America?
Yeah, because it is a great place.
It is already a great place.
Yeah. And it's worth fighting for, because it could be better. And I just that's why we do this show, and we talk about SCORE and people mentoring others, is that we're aware that we have work to do, and our society needs work. But to just accuse ourselves of being a bad place or formerly great is just such a treachery to me. It's like, what kind of collaborator are you, man? You stupid. Stop it. Just make things better. we can make anyway. I don't want to go off, and it's a good thing that it's time for me to get off the air. SCORE, the Small Business Administration Awards, will be on May 12th. The luncheon is open to all. You can go in and meet these people. There are also some workshops that are going to happen that day. Houston.score.org. Houston.score.org. Ladies and gentlemen, listen, if you have any questions, I'm happy to send you a direct link to a past show. All these shows are available to you at this radio station's network, and you can send me questions directly at my email address, which is texanfromfrance@gmail.com. texanfromfrance@gmail.com. And as everybody who emails me knows, you can expect to get an answer. I actually get around to it. And a lot of the organizations that appear on the show do so because a listener writes in to say, hey, you should take a look at this organization. They operate in my neighborhood. I think they're doing good work. And that's always very hopeful to me, too. I feel like the community is participating in Houston, PA. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be back next week, a proud Houstonian. My name is Laurent, and this has been Houston, PA, Houston's Public Affairs Show.